Pisces friends, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my Pisces July 2025 Astrology Horoscope Forecast. We've had a mega series of outer planet sign changes. It's very unusual that outer planets change signs because they take so long to move around. And now this month we have yet another one. Uranus is moving into Gemini for the first time in 75 years. We're going to talk about what that can mean for Pisces in the short term, in the long term. Plus, we've got Mercury retrograde this month. This changes our tides and the best things to do along with it. So we're going to talk about that and what that can mean specifically for Pisces, as well as hit the new moon, the full moon, and some other important things for the month. This is for you if Pisces is your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, or any other Pisces placement you're listening for. What I'm going to talk about here is part of your astrological picture. Very late degree Pisces friends, so birthdays like March 15th and later to the rest of the sign, or Pisces degree 23 degrees to the rest of the sign, I suggest you additionally listen to my Aries report, as you cuspy friends can benefit from both readings. Okay, so I'm just going to get right into the big deal right here at the beginning. Usually I kind of work my way up to the big long-term transits, but I'm just going to start out with it right now. So we have gone through a time where last year we had Pluto move into Aquarius. This year we've had Saturn move into Aries, Neptune move into Aries. We just had Jupiter move into Cancer. And so the final last outer planet that's going to change signs is Uranus. Now, as I said, this is very unusual when you're talking about anywhere for like 12 years for Jupiter and 240-year orbits and the other planets somewhere in between. They don't change signs very often. So we're in a time of major change for humanity. A lot of things are transitioning into really different ways of being. And Uranus is the last sign to make that change. So Uranus rules suddenness and inventiveness and things coming out of the blue. And it can create instability, but it can also create genius. It can create sudden cracks out of an old matrix into a new world. And it can create uncertainty, but life is uncertainty, so there are no surprises there. It's something we've always dealt with. But there is something specific with this planet with that energy. So when Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini, it highlights the fourth house for Pisces. Now, it's going to be in this placement for around 8 years. And during this time, you will notice an increase in liveliness, changes, spontaneity, randomness, suddenness going on in your fourth house of home and family. So some of the things that you can expect that you may be ushered in at this time, you also might have been seeing this starting up in recent months, are sudden changes at home. So moves, renovations, changes to who lives with you or who you live with. When I had Uranus moving through my fourth house, I remember one cycle, I moved so many times. I think I moved 17 times in that period of time. Most of the moves were desired, and they were great. And I went from one great place to another, so there's nothing in this manifestation that means that it has to be bad. It happened to be a time in my life where that was working out for me. And, this could be your way too, if you're trying to become like a digital nomad or, stepping into, like moving around or traveling a lot. This can be an amazing manifestation of this. You may have this desire to break free from the traditional way of doing family or doing housing. You may crave more freedom because that is another key note of the planet Uranus, asking the questions about freedom. So you may crave more freedom and individuality in your living situation, in your home. You may get into more of a flexible arrangement with where you live, where you can come and go more easily. You may notice that in this time you're receiving this major liberation from the past. So you might be breaking out of ancestral or emotional patterns. Now, all Pisces are going to be going through this, and in the whole house chart, this is current for everybody. In the Placidus charts, those of you who are early placements, so basically like February-born friends, there's a special axis of activation for you, where, you're in this opposition with Uranus from your fourth house to the 10th house, and this could make more notable outcomes, changes with your work and home, because of this, the 10th house is work, the fourth house is home. there could be extra notable milestones occurring for you, early degree placements from this, but all of you are opening up into this time where you can break free from limitations or, ancestral or emotional patterns, where you can really rewrite the story that you've inherited from your family. Now, this chance for rewriting and breaking free is true for all placements, for all of this time, all of these 8 years that this, Uranus is going to be in this position. This is a long-term story. And you may see a lot of things activating this month. You may also have possible uncovering of surprises in your roots or your heritage. You may do a DNA test and find things that you weren't expecting in there. You may find relatives that, you weren't expecting, or start up relationships with these people. There may be something having to do with unusualness, because Uranus rules the unusual, the eccentric, the weird. So weird things, at home, like, moving to a completely different situation than for you. Like maybe you were off grid and now you're like in the middle of a city. Maybe you are in a normal community and now you're moving to communal or unconventional households. The digital nomadism, like I talked to before, that's actually a very, very, very good translation of the potentials of this. You also may get your home very technologically upgraded, because Uranus does rule technology. So you may, have a smart home, and you may have, major changes to the technology that you use on a daily basis. Since the fourth house also relates to your deep emotional world, you may have shifts to your emotional awakening process. So sudden awarenesses or startling revelations or shocks that shake your foundation emotionally, but can ultimately push you into this more authentic, freer inner life, because the goal here is freedom. And the questions that are being asked are centered around what is freedom for you now at this time. There may also be this energy of reinvention about where you belong. So you may relocate frequently, becoming like a citizen of the world. You may question these traditional ideas of settling down, or do a year traveling, or do, a year in an RV, or these kind of things. If you've been thinking about that, you're going to have extra energy around that, and you'll see a lot of activation occurring at this time. All right, I'm going to give you a couple of ways just to work with this energy, and then we'll move on to more shorter term things. One really big thing to know about Uranus is it's so important to stay flexible. This is the energy of ingenuity and innovation, and along with that space, you'll have to use your lateral thinking of looking at, every different side of things and thinking outside of the box. Technology is a huge piece here. So embracing technology or renegotiating your relationship with technology to do the opposite, where you move away from it, also can come up. Reassessing emotional safety and what you need to deepen that experience. When I was going through Uranus, moving through the fourth house, I was able to go through it consciously because I knew the energy, what was going on, because I had the benefit of being able to look at my chart. So if you know that this is happening, which I'm telling you now then it's really helpful, because what I used to consider home or my anchor, I had to revise that, and so basically my idea of home changed to where I was at that time, or something like that, where you restructure what home is to you. And also being open to have shifts in your arrangements with your family relationships. So all of these can prepare you not only for this month, but for the next 8 months, because even when Uranus pops out back into Taurus, it's never going to be far enough away from Gemini to not be influencing in this area that I'm telling you about. So this is going to be straight through as an influence this whole time. Okay, so now let's hit some shorter term topics, some things that are special to this month. If you haven't already listened to my June report, you may want to do that, because I do go into what Jupiter moving into Cancer can look like for Pisces, and it is a fellow water sign, so that is very exciting. All right, so one of the things we have going on this month that's very notable is that we've got Mercury going into retrograde. Okay, now let's take a step back and discuss some things about this. If you've been following my reports, then you know that I talk a lot about what I like to say our astrological tides, and basing our, just like a fisher person might base when they go to get bait or when they go fishing with certain moon, with certain tides. When we do things based on the astrological tides, it can make things much smoother and easier for us. So I like to keep you posted every month where we're at with those astrological tides. So we had a long retrograde cycle of personal planet retrogrades, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and their shadow periods, which are those sketchy periods before and after where it's officially direct, but it's not quite clear. From September into the middle of May. Then from the middle of May and all of June, we have this brilliant open period. And if you are watching this early, then definitely take advantage of June being the open period. Again, you can see the June report for that, because we don't have very many periods of time that are free from these retrograde processes. When the planets are moving retrograde, it makes it harder to see into the future. It makes it harder to plan. It makes it harder to push your boat out to sea. Because if you imagine when you're paddling, the tides are pushing you back in. So anything that you want to go far and wide on the ocean of your life, when you try to push things out in a retrograde, it pushes back to you on the shore. So July is an excellent time to not try to do your launches or your big decisions, and more respond to the things that happen, or to, kind of really be reflective about the things that happen and wait on the shore and let things come to you for you to respond to. So rather than you coming up with your agenda and your list and the things to push through and the things you want to birth, more or less, not including babies. Of course, babies have their own time. We're not doing our planning for when the babies are going to come out, but your other babies, your creative babies and your decisions, etc. But July is a fantastic time to just respond to the things that happen. And usually there tends to be an increase in the things that happen for you to deal with. Technology goes haywire. Communications get all messed up. So responding to what's coming to you and going back over things. This is an earthworm month. So retrograde energies are when we want to go inwards and backwards. So let me give you some dates. July 17th is when Mercury officially goes retrograde until August 11th. The pre-shadow period for Mercury retro started June 30th, and the post-shadow will go to August 26th. So essentially, all of July and all of August are covered in this energy. So during that time, be the earthworm, go back over things. And what are the areas that are best to go back over? Things with your work, things with your health and wellness, things with your pets, things with, let's say you're a writer and you have a writing job, going back over, editing things. Some things you may see specifically as a Pisces during this time is miscommunications or delays in your job, or, confusion about things there. A need to redo tasks, or an opportunity to go back through and redo something. There, you may have to do a little extra work about clarifying expectations at this time. And also past coworkers and past projects might resurface. There may be power struggles. The fact that the energy is in Leo adds a little bit of drama or ego. So you may have to deal with some ego in the workplace that may come up from a past pattern of that happening. It may be time to revisit a wellness routine or go back to something that worked for you. If there was a diet that worked really well, or a practitioner that really helped you, or, something with your wellness, it may come back up. Also, if there's a symptom that you had and then it went away, it may come back up. So this is a time to go back over and do your investigatory work about things with your health and your wellness. Leo also rules the heart and the expression. So Mercury retrograde here can definitely highlight a burnout from not feeling recognized or heard, especially in the workplace. So you might want to ask the questions. Are you giving too much? Are you doing what you need to do to let your creative voice shine? And do you need to go back over and get some things ready for launch? After this Mercury retrograde cycle, we will have an opportunity to launch more things again. And actually, if you want the whole 2025 launch direct and retrograde planner, go to, it's anniehelpsyou.com, and then scroll down until you see the Secret Star Portal, or you can just search in any kind of online search for Secret Star Portal, and it usually comes up. And that service accesses the planning calendar for the whole year, so you can kind of make your plans. But this month, is a time to kind of get everything ready for future launches. Some ways to work with this energy are to double check your appointments, double check your emails and plans, make sure before you send something. I know I've seen it happen many times that voice to text will turn, things I say into the F word or other things that I did not say. And you may have something like that come up more often where because I'm telling you now, we'll find that error before it's sent. Things like that. Also, double check plans, call about appointments beforehand to make sure everything's on track. It's a really great time to experiment with new health regimens and things like that, but in a short-term way. So rather than making big commitments to a year gym membership or something like that, like a pay-as-you-go or something that's more flexible, a short-term arrangement would be better at this time. This is a fantastic time to reorganize your workspace, to reflect on what you do daily and what your systems are and what is working and what isn't. And to really, just look at your expression through a heart-centered lens, so basically like your creativity-centered lens. So how is your creativity shining or not? And what can you do to realign your everyday life with your joy and your self-expression? Something else to know about this month is that it's notoriously not busy in the sky compared to June, where we had at least almost 30 aspects. Aspects are when planets move into mathematical configuration with each other and they just bring a lot of activity. So we have more than or less than half the aspects this month. So it's not as busy as it was. But we do have this Mercury retrograde and we are starting eclipse season. Okay, so the eclipses that we have in September, 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks beforehand, you start seeing news and things becoming active and things coming from the unconscious space to the conscious space again. So just kind of be aware of that. If you want more info on the eclipses, go to AnnieHelpsYou.com and then put in the, when you sign up for my free VIP newsletter, in the welcome letter you get, I have my eclipse resource page and you can click on the links for your sign to see what the storylines are with that whole scene. Okay, so something else to know, July 10th, we've got a full moon at 18 degrees of Capricorn. So fullness, completion, fruition, drama in the 10th house for Pisces, or I'm sorry, the 11th house for Pisces. So this has to do with your friends and your social circles and actually the energy of Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus. So a lot of the same things I told you about Uranus ruling, inventions and innovations, there will be activity there. Also things having to do with social networking and groups and friendships. There may be something coming to fruition or coming to a head at this time. Okay, I told you July 17th is Mercury retro. July 24th, we've got the new moon in Leo, and that is going to be in the same house as the Mercury retrograde, which is the 6th house. So a new seed planting in your health, with your pets, in your workspace. Some new beginnings happening there. In general, we've got a lot of energy in Cancer this month because the sun, of course, this is the sun's time in Cancer. So you're going to have accentuation to that Leo realm because this Cancer energy moves through Pisces, 5th house, which is ruled by Leo. So creative projects, bucket list things, kids, romance, love, relationships, all of those are going to be highlighted by the sun at this time. And Venus is additionally going to move through Gemini, which is going to highlight your house of home and family. So there's more emphasis on that space as well. Venus in Gemini will want to lend itself to temporary arrangements in home and family. So again, the long-term story we talked about with Uranus is further corroborated here with Venus moving through for a short period of time, just kind of bringing a lot of options into your home cycle or your home experience. And so if possible, unless you're making a short-term arrangement, try to keep your decisions with your home and family as short-term or flexible during this month until the energies start to clear out for longer-term decisions. I've given you a bunch of dates, and if you like more dates, go to AnnieHelpsYou.com. Join my free VIP newsletter, put your name and email address in there. And in my welcome letter, you'll have access to the archive link. In the archive link, search for July 2025 astrology, and you will get all of my sweet and salty dates, my favorite dates of the month, the ones to be most awareful and careful of. If you want to know how these outer planets changes, all of the ones we talked about, Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus changing, what that means for you personally, more info about that, get my personalized report at anniebclarity.com. Annie, the letter B, clarity.com. If you want to learn astrology as your profession, go to beastropro.com, beastropro.com, and you can see all of the details about my astrology certification course there. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.